We chase freedom through promotions, possessions, and perfect lifestyles, yet we only feel more tightly bound. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus offered a different path, stating that freedom is secured not by fulfilling desires, but by controlling them. This is the profound secret to an unshakable inner liberty. In this exploration, you will discover how to apply timeless Stoic principles to build a fortress of self-mastery that no external circumstance can breach. We will uncover how cognitive discipline and emotional resilience can turn life's greatest challenges into your greatest sources of strength. What does genuine freedom truly mean in your own life right now? The first step to Stoic freedom is recognizing a simple but profound division. This is the dichotomy of control, a core idea that separates everything in our lives into two distinct categories. On one side are the things that are within our power, our own thoughts, our choices, and our efforts. On the other side is everything else, the external world of events, the opinions of others, and outcomes we cannot command. True freedom, the Stoics argued, is found in pouring all of our energy into the first category and gracefully accepting the second. When you stop fighting against the currents you cannot change, you suddenly find the strength to navigate the waters you can. The Stoic teacher Epictetus put it plainly in his handbook, writing that some things are up to us and some are not. Our opinions are up to us, our impulses and desires are up to us. He continues, what is not up to us includes our body, our possessions, our reputations, and our public offices. The moment you internalize this division, a heavy weight lifts. Anxiety often comes from a misplaced focus, from trying to command the weather or control another person's reaction. But your own response to the rain, your decision to carry an umbrella or to simply accept the downpour, that is entirely your domain. Think of a daily frustration like being stuck in unexpected traffic. You cannot control the red light stretching ahead or the accident that caused the delay. These are external events firmly in the category of what is not up to you. You can, however, control your judgment of the situation. You can choose to fume and stress, clenching the steering wheel and amplifying your own misery. Or you can accept the reality of the delay and decide to use the time, perhaps by listening to an audiobook or simply allowing your mind a few moments of quiet reflection. The situation itself has not changed, but your relationship to it has been transformed from one of struggle to one of calm focus. This principle applies equally to something as personal as receiving criticism. The words someone speaks, their opinion of you, these are not in your control. They belong to the external world. What is yours alone is your interpretation of their words and your subsequent action. You can receive their feedback with defensiveness and anger, or you can sift through it with a calm mind, taking what is useful for your growth and discarding the rest without emotional turmoil. Where in your own life are you spending precious energy trying to control the uncontrollable? It might be a relationship you are trying to force, a particular outcome at work you are desperate for, or even your own past experiences that you endlessly revisit. Consider for a moment how releasing your grip on that external factor could actually increase your sense of inner liberty. This is not about giving up, but about wisely directing your power to the only place it has ever truly mattered. What if your wants and fears were the very chains holding you back? This is the powerful question the Stoics asked, and their answer reshaped the entire concept of liberty. They saw that freedom is not about getting everything you desire, but about mastering the desires themselves. True autonomy comes from disciplining what you reach for and what you run from, aligning them only with what is virtuous and within your control. Unchecked desires create a form of inner constraint, where your peace of mind becomes tied to external things you may or may not obtain. The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote extensively about this in his letters, reflecting on the challenge of limitless wants. He observed that peace does not dwell in outward things, but in the will that is aligned with the natural order. In other words, serenity is found not in accumulating more, but in wanting less of what lies beyond our power. This thoughtful approach aligns your inner world with the natural flow of life, rather than putting you in constant conflict with it. Consider the modern pull of consumerism or the subtle pull of social media comparison. You see a new product or a friend's curated vacation, and a desire ignites. You feel you must have that experience or that object to be happy. In that moment, your sense of well-being becomes linked to something outside of you. But what if you paused and questioned that impulse? By consciously moderating that desire, by deciding you can be content without that specific external, you reclaim a vast amount of mental space and autonomy. You are no longer being pulled by invisible strings. The energy you once spent on wanting is freed up for creating, for connecting, or for simple appreciation of what you already possess. This practice is not about deprivation, but about empowerment. It is about choosing your focus rather than having it chosen for you. Think of one desire you can reassess today. It might be the desire for a particular kind of recognition at work, or the desire to own a certain item. What would happen if you gently loosened your grip on that specific want? How might that small act of internal discipline create a greater sense of inner freedom for you right now? Think of your mind as a gatekeeper, deciding which thoughts to let in and which to turn away. This is the heart of the Stoic practice of assent, that critical moment between an initial impression and your full emotional reaction. An impression is that raw, unfiltered spark of thought, the immediate feeling of frustration when you are cut off in traffic, or the sting of unease when you hear a critical comment. The Stoics teach that this first impression is automatic. You cannot control its arrival, but your freedom is exercised in the next moment, in the conscious choice to either approve that impression and let it become a full-blown judgment, or to set it aside as untrue or unhelpful. This tiny space between stimulus and response is where your inner liberty is either preserved or surrendered. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius often reflected on this power in his private writings. He reminded himself that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. He observed that our perceptions themselves cannot harm us. They do not have the power to do so. It is only our own consent, our own judgment about that perception, that can disturb our peace. He was essentially training himself to see an upsetting event not as a catastrophe, but as a neutral occurrence. The difficulty only arises if he gives his mental consent to the idea that it is one. Consider the practical example of receiving challenging feedback on a project you worked hard on. The initial impression is a sharp feeling of hurt, a flash of defensiveness. This is the gatekeeper's first alert. Without the practice of assent, you might immediately approve that impression. You might spiral into thoughts about the reviewer's unfairness, your own inadequacy, and the uncertain future of your work. The emotion snowballs, fueled by your unchecked assent. But with a moment of pause, you can examine the impression. You can look at the feedback itself, separate from the emotional charge. Is any part of it true and useful for your growth? You can choose to assent only to that constructive kernel, taking it in as valuable information. The rest, the tone of the delivery or the parts that feel personally critical, you can consciously turn away at the gate. You have not been harmed by the words themselves, but by managing your assent, you have prevented them from causing internal turmoil. This transforms the experience from a personal challenge into a simple data point for improvement. What was one recent moment where an automatic negative impression arose in you? Perhaps it was a feeling of irritation at a minor inconvenience or a wave of worry about an upcoming event. Look back at that moment now. If you had paused to act as the gatekeeper, if you had withheld your immediate assent from that initial feeling, how might your internal state have changed? This is not about suppressing emotion, but about choosing which thoughts you grant the power to shape your reality. Apatheia is often misunderstood. It is not about feeling nothing, but about not being enslaved by destructive emotions. This Stoic ideal is a state of profound inner calm, where the soul is no longer tossed by storms of irrational feeling. It is the freedom that comes when you are not overcome by your own reactions, allowing for clear judgment and lasting peace. The goal is not to become a statue devoid of all feeling, but to transform raw, chaotic passions into reasoned, thoughtful responses. Seneca, in his powerful work on anger, described this state with great clarity. He wrote that the greatest proof of a peaceful mind is to be found in its ability to remain undisturbed by either success or adversity. True freedom, he suggests, is found in not being conquered by violent emotions. This is the core of Apatheia, a mastery over the inner world that makes external circumstances far less powerful. Imagine a leader facing a sudden, significant business loss. The initial, raw passion might be a surge of panic or a burning frustration, emotions that could cloud judgment and lead to poor, reactive decisions. A person practicing apatheia would not deny the difficulty of the situation. They would feel the weight of it, but they would not be ruled by the panic. Instead of being swept away, they would pause. They would allow the initial wave of feeling to pass without fueling it, and then from a place of clarity, assess the facts. What can be salvaged? What can be learned? What is the next rational step? Their response is measured and effective, precisely because it is not driven by blind emotion. This same principle applies to personal hardship, such as navigating the deep sadness of a personal transition. Apatheia does not mean you do not grieve. It means your grief does not possess you entirely. It becomes a sorrow you carry with compassion and understanding, not a torment that shatters your capacity to function or to find meaning in the memory of what was cherished. You feel the emotion without letting the emotion become you. Think of an emotion that frequently disrupts your own peace. It might be a quickness to anger in traffic or a lingering anxiety about a future event. How might practicing this form of emotional freedom, this apatheia, change your relationship to that feeling? What would it be like to acknowledge the emotion without letting it steer your actions, to find that quiet center within yourself from which you can choose your response? Freedom is not just what we think, it is also how we act in the world with intention and detachment. This brings us to the vital discipline of action, where inner principles meet the outer world. The Stoics taught that genuine liberty is expressed through our deeds, performed with purpose and virtue for the common good, all while remaining unattached to the final results. This approach frees you from the cycles of frustration and futility that come from tying your peace to outcomes you cannot command. Your duty is to act rightly. The consequences are not your concern. Marcus Aurelius captured this spirit perfectly in his private meditations. He advised himself to do what is necessary, and whatever the reason of a social animal naturally requires and as it requires. Do this without looking for any reward, and your life will be a happy one. He was reminding himself that right action is its own reward, a natural expression of your character, not a transaction for applause or success. This is about acting from a place of integrity because it is who you are, not because of what you might get in return. Consider the simple, powerful act of volunteering your time. You show up to help at a community garden or a local shelter. not because you expect a thank you note or public recognition, but because the act of service itself aligns with your values. You do the work diligently, you contribute to a greater good, and then you go home. Whether the project is hailed as a massive success or goes completely unnoticed by the wider world, your inner satisfaction remains untouched. You performed your duty with excellence, and that is where your freedom lies. The same principle applies to your professional life. You complete a project with care and dedication. You treat your colleagues with respect. You do your job well because that is what virtue requires. You do not hinge your sense of accomplishment on whether it leads to a promotion or a bonus. If the external reward comes, that is fine. If it does not, your peace is not shattered because your goal was the quality of the action itself, not the outcome. Your self-worth is no longer tied to the unpredictable winds of external validation. This detachment is not a lack of caring, it is a profound shift in focus. You care deeply about doing the right thing, but you release your grip on how the world responds to your actions. This is how you build a life of consistent purpose, immune to the disappointment of unmet expectations. Today, can you identify one small action you can take purely for its own virtuous quality? It could be offering sincere help to a coworker without mentioning it to anyone else, or completing a household task with mindful care simply because it is the right thing to do. Perform this action and notice how it feels to act freely, with your intention entirely on the deed itself, completely detached from any result. What if occasionally choosing discomfort is the key to never being controlled by it? The Stoics proposed a radical form of training to achieve this very state, a practice known as voluntary discomfort. By willingly embracing small hardships, you build an inner resilience that makes you immune to the sudden shifts of fortune. This is not about seeking difficulty for its own sake, but about actively proving to yourself that you can thrive with less, that your peace is not dependent on perfect external conditions. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus spoke directly to this, arguing that practicing with less is necessary. He suggested that just as an athlete must train for a contest, so too must a person practice for the challenges of life by accustoming themselves to be content with simple food, plain clothing, and a modest dwelling. This training fortifies the mind, building a confidence that comes from knowing you have resources within you that no external circumstance can take away. Think of how a sudden inconvenience like a power outage can disrupt your entire day. The frustration arises from the disruption of your comfort and routine. But if you have voluntarily practiced going without certain comforts, the actual event loses its power to disturb you. You have already proven to yourself that you can read by candlelight, that you can find quiet amusement without a screen, that you are fundamentally okay. This practice systematically reduces the fear of loss because you are no longer clinging to those externals as the sole source of your well-being. Your freedom is secured by your demonstrated ability to adapt and endure. You can integrate this into modern life with simple, safe actions. Begin by taking a cool shower for the final minute of your morning routine. The initial surprise is a powerful reminder of your body's resilience and your mind's capacity to choose a difficult but beneficial path. Or voluntarily skip a meal once a week, not as a hardship but as a conscious exercise in mastering a physical desire. You are not depriving yourself, you are simply observing the sensation of hunger and realizing that it passes, that you remain strong and focused. Another practice is to choose the more active route occasionally, like taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or walking for an errand you would normally drive. Each of these small acts is a vote for your own self-mastery. This week, could you select one small, safe act of voluntary challenge to try? It might be turning off the heating in your car for a short drive on a cool day, or fasting from social media for 24 hours. As you do it, pay close attention to the internal shift. Notice the quiet confidence that emerges when you consciously choose the effort and discover that you are more than capable of handling it. How does this small demonstration of inner strength change your relationship to the other comforts you usually take for granted? The only moment where your freedom can truly be exercised is right now. Anxiety pulls you into an imagined future, while regret chains you to an unchangeable past. Both steal your attention and energy from the single point in time where you actually have any power, this very instant. Stoic freedom is anchored firmly in the present, because a mind scattered across time is a mind that cannot act with clarity or purpose. The ancient Stoics developed specific exercises to train this focus, such as a morning meditation to prepare for the day ahead, and an evening review to reflect on their actions with calm perspective, always bringing their attention back to the here and now. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this in his private writings. He instructed himself to stay within the present moment and to perform each action of your life as if it were your last. He was not speaking of something grim, but of a profound focus. By accepting the natural flow of the universe and concentrating solely on the task immediately before you, you engage with life fully, without the distortion of worry or nostalgia. Imagine you are consumed with concern about an important presentation scheduled for next week. Your mind races through every possible thing that could go wrong. You rehearse difficult questions and imagine critical faces. This future tripping creates a tangible stress in your body right now, a tension that serves no purpose and only diminishes your current effectiveness. The Stoic response is not to avoid preparation, but to radically return to the present. What is the one small, concrete task you can do right at this moment to prepare? Perhaps it is simply refining the first slide of your deck. By pouring all of your attention into that single, manageable action, you break the cycle of anxiety. The overwhelming future is broken down into a series of present moments, each one an opportunity for focused, rational action. You are no longer a passive victim of your own fears about what might be, but an active participant in what is. This practice reclaims a tremendous amount of mental space that was previously occupied by phantoms of tomorrow. To experience this shift directly, try a simple exercise. Sometime today, spend just 5 minutes fully engaged in a single, mundane activity. It could be drinking a cup of tea, feeling the warmth of the cup in your hands, noticing the aroma, tasting each sip without distraction. Or take a short walk, feeling the ground beneath your feet, observing the light and shadow around you, without letting your mind wander to your to-do list. In that brief period of complete presence, notice the quality of your experience. There is no anxiety about the future, no regret about the past, only the simple, direct engagement with the moment. This is a taste of the freedom that comes from anchoring your awareness in the only time that is ever truly yours. Looking down on your life from a great height, how do your problems appear? The bustling city becomes a quiet grid, the vast landscapes shrink into intricate patterns, and the noisy urgency of daily life falls into a profound silence. This shift in perspective is the heart of a powerful Stoic exercise known as the view from above, a mental practice designed to dissolve the ego and reveal what truly matters. By consciously rising above your immediate circumstances, you see your place within the vast, rational order of the cosmos, and the small concerns that once felt overwhelming begin to lose their grip on your emotions. This is not about dismissing your experiences, but about viewing them from a point of clarity where their true proportion becomes evident. Marcus Aurelius frequently used this technique to steady his mind amidst the immense pressures of leading an empire. In his private writings, he reminded himself to often think of the universal substance, of which you have a very small portion, and of universal time, of which a short and indivisible interval has been assigned to you. He reflected on the vastness of the cosmos and the countless generations that have come and gone, noting how all the striving and commotion of human affairs is but a fleeting whisper in eternity. This cosmic perspective was his anchor, a way to ensure that the weight of his responsibilities did not overwhelm his inner freedom. He was not diminishing his duties, but rather placing them in a context so large that his own worries could not dominate him. You can apply this same practice during a moment of personal conflict or stress. Imagine you are in the middle of a heated disagreement. Your heart is racing, your focus has narrowed to the immediate point of tension, and every word feels critically important. Now pause for just a moment and invoke the view from above. In your mind's eye, pull back from the room, see the building from the outside, then the neighborhood, then the city, continuing until the entire planet is a pale blue dot in a vast, dark expanse. From this cosmic vantage point, how significant is this single argument? The core issue may still require a calm and rational response, but the intense emotional charge, the feeling that everything is at stake, begins to dissipate. You are able to re-engage not from a place of reactive frustration, but from a place of measured understanding, recognizing this as one small event in the long and complex tapestry of a shared life. This exercise fosters a gentle humility, reminding you that you are a small but integral part of a much larger whole. It directly reduces the ego's demand for center stage, allowing you to prioritize actions based on virtue and reason rather than on personal reaction or temporary inconvenience. The next time you feel overwhelmed by a challenge, whether it is a professional setback or a personal concern, take a mental journey upwards. Look down on your life from that great height and observe the shift within you. How does this new perspective change the emotional weight of the situation? And what space for calm, purposeful action does it create? The ultimate expression of Stoic freedom is not just accepting your fate, but embracing it with love. This is the profound principle of Amor Fati, a love of one's fate that transforms every event, even the most challenging, into a necessary and beneficial part of your development. Where simple acceptance might still carry a subtle tension, a quiet resignation to what is, Amor Fati invites you to welcome your entire life with an open heart, seeing every thread as essential to the tapestry. This mindset dissolves the internal resistance that creates so much of our struggle, allowing you to move with the current of events rather than exhausting yourself by swimming against it. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered a powerful framework for this, advising his students to seek not for events to happen as you wish, but to wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go well. He was pointing to a radical reorientation of desire, where your will aligns so perfectly with reality that you find value in whatever unfolds. Centuries later, the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, deeply inspired by such ideas, would crystallize this sentiment, urging us to not merely bear what is necessary, but to love it. This is the shift from passive endurance to active, joyful participation in your own life story. Consider the historical example of the philosopher Seneca, who faced repeated personal and political challenges, including his time away from Rome. Rather than allowing this period to break his spirit, he used the isolation as a fertile ground for his writing and philosophical reflection, producing some of his most enduring works. He did not just tolerate his circumstances, he mined them for their hidden value, turning a seeming setback into a time of immense creative and personal growth. In a modern context, imagine someone experiencing an unexpected career transition. The initial shock and concern are natural, but applying Amor Fati means moving beyond that initial reaction to actively look for the opportunity embedded within the change. Perhaps this closing of one door is the necessary push to finally pursue a long contemplated path, to gain new skills, or to reconnect with family during a period of reflection. The event itself remains difficult, but your relationship to it is transformed from one of frustration to one of agency and discovery. The transition becomes not a punishment, but a redirection. Think back to a recent difficulty in your own life, a challenge or a disappointment that felt heavy in the moment. Now, consider how viewing that same event through the lens of Amor Fati could have altered your experience. What hidden strength did it encourage you to find? What new perspective did it offer? What unnecessary attachment did it help you release? How might loving that piece of your fate, exactly as it happened, have deepened your sense of inner freedom and trust in your own journey? Within each of us lies a fortress that no external force can breach if we choose to guard it. The Stoics named this the Inner Citadel, a sanctuary of the mind built not from stone, but from reason and virtue. This is not a physical place, but a state of being, a core of self that remains untouched by the chaos of the outside world. Its walls are strengthened by every conscious choice, by every moment you pause before reacting, by every desire you master. The more you practice these disciplines, the more resilient your inner stronghold becomes, a private refuge of freedom that exists regardless of your circumstances. Marcus Aurelius frequently reflected on this concept in his private writings, advising himself to retreat into this little territory of your own mind. Above all, do not be troubled or anxious, he wrote, but be free. He saw this inner citadel as a place of ultimate safety, a space where he could always find peace and clarity by turning inward, away from the demands and dramas of his empire. He was reminding himself that his true self resided in that fortress, secure and unassailable. Imagine facing a situation of public criticism where false rumors about your character begin to spread. The external event is the words being spoken, a force you cannot control. The initial impression might be one of surprise, concern, and a strong desire to respond. Without an inner citadel, you might be swept away by these feelings, launching into frantic defenses or reacting in frustration, actions that often worsen the situation and disturb your own peace. But if you have been building that fortress, you have a place to retreat to. You can consciously step back from the noise and turmoil. Inside those walls, you can access your reason. You can assess the statements calmly, separate fact from fiction, and decide on a response rooted in your principles, not in raw emotion. You might choose to address the matter with dignified silence, trusting that your consistent actions will speak for themselves over time, or you might offer a clear, factual correction without ill will. The criticism itself has not changed, but your relationship to it has. It rattles harmlessly against the outer walls of your citadel, unable to touch the calm sovereign within. This same principle applies to the experience of a significant professional setback. The external event is the project's end. The inner citadel is where you process the disappointment without letting it define your worth, where you can analyze what went wrong with clear eyes, and where you find the resilience to begin again, your core integrity completely intact. Can you visualize your own inner citadel right now? What does it feel like to know there is a place within you that can never be truly touched by outside events? This week, what is one wall you can consciously strengthen through practice? It might be the wall of assent, by pausing before you approve a negative impression, or the wall of desire, by choosing to want one thing less. Every small act of self-mastery adds another stone to your defense, securing your inner freedom for a lifetime. What if imagining the most difficult scenarios could actually become a tool for greater peace and freedom? The Stoics developed a surprising exercise for this very purpose, known as Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of challenges. This practice is not about pessimism or fear. but about a thoughtful form of mental preparation that strengthens the mind against the surprise of hardship and deepens your appreciation for the present moment. By calmly and consciously visualizing potential setbacks or changes, you take away the future power of those events to disturb your inner calm, turning anxiety into a grounded readiness. Seneca championed this approach in his letters, encouraging his reader to reflect in their mind on exile, hardship, illness, personal loss, and life's natural transitions. He was not inviting despair, but rather proposing a mental exercise. He wrote that we should send our thoughts ahead to meet all these circumstances, so that when they arrive, they do not come as strangers. This kind of preparation helps ensure you are not caught unprepared, allowing you to meet life's inevitable shifts with a steady and resilient heart. The goal is to see these possibilities clearly, accept them as part of life's flow, and in doing so, realize that your inner self can endure them. This practice gently loosens your grip on external things, not by making you care less, but by showing yourself that your worth and peace do not live solely in those externals. Consider your daily commute to work. You likely take for granted the smooth functioning of your car, the open roads, and your own well-being. Now, apply a brief moment of premeditatio. Mentally picture your car not starting one morning. Visualize the inconvenience, the need to arrange another way to travel, the potential delay. As you sit with this image calmly, you accomplish two things. First, you reduce the fear and frustration you would feel if it actually happened, because the event is no longer a shocking surprise. Second, and perhaps more importantly, when you return your focus to the present, you feel a sudden, sharp gratitude that your car is currently working perfectly. The ordinary becomes a small gift. You can apply this same principle to relationships. Take a quiet moment to contemplate the profound value of a loved one, while also holding the gentle awareness that all connections in life are part of a larger journey. This is not meant to be heavy, but to frame your time together as precious. This mental rehearsal makes you less likely to take them for granted today. It encourages you to express appreciation more freely and to engage more fully when you are with them, because you have consciously acknowledged that this moment is not guaranteed. Your need for their constant presence softens, while your gratitude for their current presence deepens immensely. This week, choose one thing you deeply value and quietly fear losing. It could be your health, your work, or a cherished friendship. For just a few moments, reflect on its absence not with panic, but with a calm and exploratory mind. Then return your attention to the present reality where you still have it. How does this conscious exercise change the quality of your gratitude for it right now? And what space does it create in your heart for a more resilient and appreciative freedom? We often look to others for clues on how to live, and the Stoics turned this natural impulse into a deliberate strategy for cultivating freedom. They consciously selected role models of virtue and self-mastery, individuals whose lives served as living blueprints for a life governed by reason rather than passion. This was not about blind hero worship, but about having a constant, practical reference point for what inner liberty looks like in action. By keeping these examples before their eyes, they could more easily internalize the principles of Stoicism, reinforcing their own daily practice of disciplined living. Seneca offered clear advice on this in his moral letters, writing that you must choose someone whose way of life as well as words, and whose very face as mirroring the character that lies behind it, have won your approval. He insisted we should always have someone set before our eyes whom we may watch as if he were a guardian, and whose authority guides our every action. He was describing a form of mental companionship where the imagined presence of a wise figure helps steer your choices toward greater integrity. This practice makes abstract virtues concrete and attainable. When you are unsure how to respond with self-control in a moment of provocation, you can ask yourself, what would my chosen model do in this situation? Their example becomes a compass, orienting you back toward your own inner North Star. Your personal role model does not need to be a famous philosopher from the ancient world. It could be a historical figure known for their resilience, a modern leader who demonstrates remarkable poise under pressure, or even someone in your own community whose quiet dignity and self-command you deeply respect. The key is to select someone whose character, particularly their ability to exercise freedom through self-control, genuinely inspires you. Perhaps it is a public figure who faced immense criticism without resorting to bitterness, or a family member who navigated a significant life challenge with unwavering grace. Choose one person whose inner strength in the face of adversity can become your daily reference. Think of one person you admire for their profound sense of inner freedom. It might be someone you know personally or someone you have only read about. What is the single most striking trait they possess that you could begin to emulate in your own life? Is it their patience in misunderstanding, their courage in uncertainty, or their consistent kindness regardless of the situation? By focusing on one specific quality, you transform admiration into actionable practice, building your own inner citadel one borrowed stone at a time. One of the most powerful Stoic exercises for freedom is also one of the simplest, writing down your thoughts each day. This quiet ritual of self-examination was a cornerstone of Stoic life, a dedicated time to untangle the events of the day and measure them against your principles. It is a private space where you can track your automatic impulses, assess how closely your actions aligned with virtue, and reinforce the crucial lesson of the dichotomy of control. By putting your experiences into words, you transform them from chaotic feelings into objects you can observe, understand, and learn from. You are not just keeping a diary of what happened, you are building a map of your own mind, identifying the paths that lead to inner liberty and the dead ends that result in frustration. The most famous example of this practice is the personal notebook of Marcus Aurelius, a work we now know as his Meditations. He never intended it for public view. It was his private training ground, a place to remind himself of his purpose and realign his thoughts with reason. In its pages, he confronts his own frustration, his weariness with the duties of leadership, and his concerns, writing to steady his own soul. We see him asking himself if he has done his duty for the common good, and reflecting on the nature of the universe to regain his equilibrium. His journal was the workshop where he forged his inner strength, sentence by sentence. To begin your own practice, you need nothing more than a notebook and a few quiet moments each evening. A simple and powerful prompt is to ask yourself two questions as you review your day. First, where did I exercise self-control successfully? Perhaps you felt a flash of irritation in a long line, but chose to breathe and accept the delay rather than letting it spoil your mood. Acknowledging that small victory strengthens the neural pathway for patience. Second, where could my self-control have been stronger? Maybe you assented too quickly to a negative impression about a coworker's comment and spent the afternoon feeling unsettled. Without judgment, simply note this as an area for growth tomorrow. This is not about self-criticism, but about clear-eyed observation for the sake of progress. Your journal becomes the mirror that reflects your progress in real time. For the next 7 nights, challenge yourself to this practice. Each evening, select one Stoic principle, perhaps the dichotomy of control or the discipline of desire, and write just a few lines about how it appeared in your day. Where did you place your focus, on what you could control or on what you could not? What desires pulled at your attention and how did you respond? After just 1 week of this consistent reflection, you will likely notice a subtle but significant shift. Your awareness of your own mental patterns will sharpen, and with that awareness comes a greater sense of autonomy. You are no longer simply reacting to life, but consciously participating in its design. In Stoicism, every word you speak or withhold is an act of self-control that defines your freedom. Our tongues can become the very chains that bind us, reacting to every provocation and surrendering our peace to the heat of the moment. When we speak without discipline, we become slaves to the opinions of others and to the conflicts we inevitably fuel. Mindful communication, in contrast, is like a fortress wall, preserving our inner integrity and allowing us to remain the calm sovereign of our own mind regardless of the external storm. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered direct counsel on this, reminding his students to be silent for the most part and to say only what is necessary and in few words. He also advised to rarely, and only when necessary, speak about common topics, avoiding talk about gladiators, horse races, or athletes. His focus was on the immense power we reclaim when we refuse to expend our energy on trivial or reactive speech. This is not about never speaking, but about ensuring that when you do, your words carry the weight of truth, necessity, and kindness. Consider a common workplace scenario where a rumor begins to circulate about a colleague. The initial impulse might be to join the speculation, to share your own piece of the puzzle, or to voice a judgment. This is the undisciplined path, one that enmeshes you in a web of gossip and external drama, making your inner state dependent on a narrative you do not control. The Stoic practice invites a different response. You can consciously choose silence not as a weakness, but as a powerful declaration that your mind is not a dumping ground for unverified information. If you must speak, you can offer a measured, kind word that defends the individual's character or gently redirects the conversation, an action that stems from your own virtue rather than from the group's impulse. This single choice preserves your inner peace and your integrity, leaving you unentangled from the conflict. Think back to a recent conversation where emotions began to run high. It could have been a minor disagreement with a family member or a debate with a friend. In that moment, did your words add fuel to the fire, or did they create space for understanding? How might exercising a little more restraint, choosing silence until you could speak with clarity and compassion, have changed the dynamic and, more importantly, strengthened your own sense of personal sovereignty in that exchange? Whether in riches or poverty, the Stoic remains equally free because their worth is not in possessions but in character. This perspective transforms money from a master into a simple tool, something to be used for good when present and released without despair when it is gone. The true goal is a soul so grounded in virtue that the changing tides of fortune cannot erode its foundation. Your inner liberty is measured not by the balance in your account, but by the peace in your mind when you think about that balance. Seneca, who himself navigated immense personal wealth, wrote extensively on this very point. He argued that wealth is a welcome addition to a life already well lived, but it is not the source of that goodness. The wise person, he noted, loves their wealth without anxiety and parts with it without sorrow. They are the master of their money, never its slave. This mastery is the core of the equanimity the Stoics sought. It is the freedom to enjoy abundance without the fear of loss poisoning that enjoyment, and the strength to face hardship without feeling that your very identity has been diminished. Consider the example of a person who has achieved significant financial success. The Stoic ideal is not for them to feel guilty about their wealth, but to use it as an instrument for virtuous action. They might practice quiet generosity, funding a local library or helping a family in need, all without any expectation of recognition or return. Their sense of accomplishment comes from the act of giving itself, from aligning their resources with their values. The money is a tool for good, not a trophy for their ego. If their circumstances were to change and that wealth were lost, their core self, their dignity and purpose would remain completely intact. They enjoyed the tool while they had it, and they can release it without a crisis of identity. The same principle holds for someone facing financial hardship. Their challenge is immense, yet their inner freedom is not determined by their bank statement. They can maintain their dignity by focusing on what is within their power, their effort, their integrity, their kindness to others, and their resourcefulness. Their worth is not measured in currency, but in the strength of their character as they navigate a difficult path. This is not a dismissal of the very real pressures of financial strain, but an affirmation that your response to that strain is where your power resides. Take a quiet moment to assess your own relationship with money. Does the thought of gaining more create a restless hunger in you? Does the fear of losing what you have introduce a low-level anxiety into your days? Your honest answer reveals who is in control. To move toward greater detachment, you might take one practical step this week. It could be as simple as making a conscious donation without telling anyone, experiencing the act of giving as its own reward. Or you could review your budget not with a sense of scarcity, but with the calm eye of a manager assessing a tool. How does this small shift in perspective, from owner to steward, change your emotional connection to the numbers on the page? Gratitude might seem passive, but for the Stoics, it was an active practice that secured freedom from endless wanting. This daily discipline of thankfulness systematically redirects your attention from what you lack to the abundance that is already present, dissolving the restless hunger that so often feels like a prison. When you consciously acknowledge the sufficiency of this moment, you are actively choosing contentment over craving, and in that choice lies a profound form of liberation. This practice is the natural companion to Amor Fati, reinforcing your love of fate by finding reasons to be thankful not in spite of your challenges, but often because of them. It is about seeing every thread, even the coarse and difficult ones, as essential to the strength and beauty of your life's tapestry. Marcus Aurelius exemplified this in his private meditations, regularly listing the things for which he was grateful. His gratitude extended far beyond simple comforts. He wrote of being thankful for his grandfather, who taught him good character, and for the brother who showed him humility. He even expressed thanks for the difficult people in his life, noting that they provided him with opportunities to practice patience and understanding. He saw these hardships as necessary training, gifts that forged his resilience and deepened his capacity for compassion. His gratitude was not a denial of difficulty, but a recognition of its hidden curriculum. You can cultivate this same freer mindset with a simple daily ritual. Each evening, perhaps as part of your journaling practice, take a moment to note down 3 specific things you feel grateful for from your day. The first might be a simple pleasure, like the warmth of sunlight on your skin or a refreshing drink of water. The second could be a person or an act of kindness you witnessed. For the third, challenge yourself to find one thing within a difficulty or an unwanted event. Perhaps you are grateful for the patience you discovered during a frustrating delay, or for the clarity that emerged from a difficult conversation. This intentional search for the silver lining does not dismiss the hardship, but it reframes it, allowing you to extract its value and reduce its power to disturb your peace. Choose one current challenge or an unwanted event from your own recent past. It could be a professional setback, a personal disagreement, or a period of uncertainty. Now, actively practice gratitude for it. What hidden strength did this situation ask you to find? What unnecessary attachment did it help you release? How did it redirect your path towards something you could not have seen coming? By finding just one point of thankfulness within that experience, you are not condoning the difficulty, but you are reclaiming your freedom from its narrative of pure loss. How does this small act of reframing change the emotional weight of that memory and open a door to a more resilient and appreciative state of mind? In a world that prizes speed, Stoic freedom often requires the counterintuitive strength of patience. This virtue is not a passive resignation, but an active endurance, a conscious decision to meet difficulties without the internal turmoil of complaint or the frantic energy of haste. When you choose patience, you are not simply waiting, you are preserving your inner space for a reasoned response to emerge, rather than being hijacked by a reactive emotion. This is how patience becomes a guardian of your autonomy, allowing you to move through adversity with your principles intact and your mind clear. It is deeply tied to the acceptance of natural processes, a recognition that some things, from the growth of a seed to the resolution of a complex problem, unfold in their own necessary time. Fighting this inherent rhythm only generates frustration, while aligning with it through patience cultivates a profound and durable calm. The Stoic teacher Epictetus framed this endurance as the very test of our philosophy. He asked his students to remember that difficulties are what show what we are made of, and that whenever we are tested, we are being educated. For the Stoic, a trial is not a punishment, but a training ground where our freedom is forged through patient perseverance. Imagine you are waiting for a crucial result, perhaps a medical report or a decision on a job application. The period of waiting can feel like a vacuum, filled with anxiety and the urgent desire for a resolution, any resolution. Impatience here manifests as constant checking of your messages, repeated speculation, and a general state of agitated suspension. This reaction hands over your present peace to an unknown future. The Stoic approach, grounded in patience, is to acknowledge the discomfort of the wait while firmly placing your focus on what you can control right now. You can continue with your daily routines, you can engage fully with the people and tasks immediately before you, and you can prepare your mind to receive any outcome with calm acceptance. By patiently enduring the uncertainty, you reclaim the present moment from the tyranny of the future. Your calm effectiveness is maintained not in spite of the delay, but through your disciplined response to it. The same principle applies to working with a colleague who processes information at a different, slower pace. Your initial impulse might be one of irritation, a desire to finish their sentences or to rush them along. This impatience, however, creates a subtle tension that disrupts the collaboration and disturbs your own focus. Patient endurance in this context means accepting their natural rhythm as an external you cannot change. It means giving them the space to complete their thoughts, listening actively, and in doing so, you often discover that their deliberate approach uncovers insights that haste would have missed. Your calm presence becomes the anchor that allows for more effective and harmonious action. Where in your own life do you feel the sharp sting of impatience most acutely? Is it in the daily commute, in the pace of a personal project, or in your expectations for someone else's growth? Identify that one situation and consider this. How might adopting a Stoic perspective of patient endurance allow you to wait with a greater sense of inner freedom, turning a period of frustration into an opportunity for quiet strength? Before you can control your actions, you must first control how you see the world. This is the discipline of perception, the foundational practice where your freedom truly begins. Every event that reaches you is filtered through a lens, and the quality of that lens, whether it is polished by reason or clouded by fear, dictates your entire emotional and behavioral response. Our perceptions are not objective facts, but interpretations we construct, and the Stoics realize that revising these interpretations is a primary act of liberation. You are not a passive recipient of your reality, you are its active interpreter. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered one of the clearest teachings on this. writing that what disturbs people are not the events themselves, but their judgments about those events. He used the powerful example of a ship's voyage. The event is a storm at sea. One person judges this as a catastrophe, filling them with terror. Another, perhaps the seasoned captain, sees the same high winds and waves as a challenge to be navigated with skill. The storm is the same, but the internal disturbance, or the lack of it, arises entirely from the individual's perception. This process of examining and revising your automatic interpretations is a form of cognitive restructuring, a way to free yourself from the tyranny of your own initial, often unhelpful, thoughts. Consider a common modern stressor, an impending work deadline. The initial automatic perception might frame this as a threat, a source of immense pressure that triggers anxiety about performance and evaluation. This view tightens your chest and scatters your focus. Now, apply the discipline of perception. Reframe this same deadline through a lens of virtue and reason. See it not as a threat, but as an opportunity to demonstrate your competence and commitment. It is a chance to focus your efforts, to practice diligence, and to produce a piece of work that reflects your personal standard of excellence. The external circumstance has not changed, the deadline is still the same, but your internal relationship to it has been transformed from one of dread to one of purposeful engagement. Your emotional freedom is restored because you have changed the narrative. Take a moment to identify one negative perception you are holding onto right now. It might be your view of a difficult person in your life, your interpretation of a recent minor setback, or your feeling about a future obligation. Now, consciously challenge that interpretation. Ask yourself, is this the only way to see this situation? How could you reframe it through a more rational, empowering, and virtuous lens? This small act of mental discipline is where you start building a fortress of freedom, not by changing the world, but by mastering the way you choose to see it. The Stoics knew that a simple life is a free life, unburdened by excess and complexity. This principle goes far beyond mere tidiness. It is a profound alignment of your external world with your internal values. When you reduce the clutter and noise around you, you naturally create more space for the clarity and focus required for Stoic practice. A life crowded with possessions and endless commitments scatters your attention and tethers your peace of mind to 1,000 different anchors, each one a potential source of worry. External simplicity is the fertile ground in which internal freedom can grow. In his letters, Seneca argued passionately for this modest way of living. He observed that it is not the person who has too little who is poor, but the one who desires more. To stop wanting wealth is to possess it, he wrote, highlighting that the truest form of riches is needing very little. This mindset liberates you from the constant chase, allowing you to find contentment not in accumulation, but in the sufficiency of what you already have. A practical starting point is to look at your physical environment. Choose one small area, a single drawer or a shelf, and declutter it with purpose. As you remove each non-essential item, you are not just organizing objects, you are making a tangible statement about what you truly value. You are actively dismantling a small fortress of dependency, piece by piece. The same practice applies to your digital life. Consider a digital fast for one evening, turning off all screens and notifications. In the quiet that follows, you might notice how often your mind had been pulled away by trivial updates, and how much calmer and more centered you feel when that constant stream of external stimulus is paused. This creates the mental room necessary for your evening reflection or a few moments of mindful presence. This week, identify one non-essential commitment or physical item you can consciously remove. It could be an unused subscription, an app that drains your attention, or a decorative object that no longer brings you peace. As you let it go, pay close attention to the subtle sense of liberation that arises. How does creating this small pocket of emptiness in your life make room for something more meaningful to enter? The Stoics practiced remembering our shared human journey, not to fear its natural course, but to live with greater purpose and freedom. This ancient exercise, known as Memento Mori, is a powerful tool for stripping away the non-essential and focusing your attention on what holds genuine value. By regularly contemplating the finite nature of life, you are not invited into despair, but into a state of profound clarity. The trivial worries and endless postponements that normally consume your mental energy begin to lose their grip, making room for choices that are aligned with virtue and true inner liberty. This meditation on our time here is ultimately a meditation on how to live fully, right now. Marcus Aurelius often turned to this thought to ground himself in the present. He wrote in his private journal, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He was not being morbid, but intensely practical. He used the awareness of life's potential brevity as a filter for his actions, ensuring that each one was performed with authenticity and complete focus, as if it truly could be his final deed. This mindset dissolves procrastination and half-hearted efforts, compelling you to act with integrity in this very moment. You can bring this practice into your own life with a simple, visual reminder. Some people keep a small symbolic object on their desk, not as a symbol of fear, but as a quiet prompt to remember what is important. Others write a phrase like Memento Mori on a note card placed where they will see it each morning. This object is not meant to be a dark omen, but a gentle alarm clock for the soul. When your gaze falls upon it, it asks a simple question: am I spending this precious day on things that truly matter? Are my actions and thoughts moving me toward freedom, or are they binding me tighter to trivial concerns? Think carefully for a moment. If you were to learn that your time was genuinely limited, what would you immediately stop doing? What conversations would you finally have? What forgiveness would you offer? What project would you begin without another moment of hesitation? Your honest answers are a map to your truest priorities. Now, the most important question: what is one step you can take today, guided by that insight, to live with that same sense of clear-eyed purpose and freedom? Stoic freedom is not a solitary pursuit. It extends directly into how we interact with others through the lens of justice. This virtue is the social expression of your inner discipline, a commitment to treat every person with fairness, kindness, and respect. When you act unjustly, when you are unfair or unkind, you do not just disrupt the social fabric, you create a fracture within your own soul. That internal dissonance, the quiet knowledge that you have acted against universal reason, is a direct assault on your personal freedom. Justice, then, becomes the practice that aligns your outer actions with your inner principles, fostering both social harmony and an unshakable sense of personal integrity. Marcus Aurelius reflected deeply on this interconnected duty, writing that what brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. He saw humanity as a single, vast organism, and our rational nature compels us to work for the common good. To act unjustly is to act against this very nature, creating a conflict that inevitably disturbs your own peace. Your freedom is found in willingly fulfilling your role within the human community, not in resisting it. Consider a common scenario where you are mediating a minor disagreement between two friends. One feels overlooked, the other feels misunderstood. The easy, unjust path might be to take sides quickly, to dismiss one person's feelings to end the conversation, or to talk about the situation later in an unhelpful way. Each of these actions might offer a temporary escape from discomfort, but they each create a residue of internal conflict. You know you have not been fair. You have sacrificed your integrity for a moment's peace. The just path, the one that upholds your freedom, is far more demanding but ultimately liberating. It requires you to listen patiently to both sides, to seek understanding over being right, and to offer a perspective rooted in fairness, even if it is not what either party wants to hear. When you walk away from that conversation, you carry no hidden burden of guilt or dissonance. Your action was aligned with reason, and your inner citadel remains strong and untroubled by the external drama. This same principle applies to a simple act of helping someone in need, perhaps a colleague struggling with a heavy workload. Stoic justice is not about grand gestures, but the daily practice of seeing others as fellow travelers deserving of your support. Offering your time and assistance without expectation of reward is a just action. It reinforces your connection to the human community and affirms your own capacity for virtuous action. The reward is not in their gratitude, but in the quiet knowledge that you have acted in accordance with your nature. Where in your own web of relationships can you practice a greater degree of fairness or kindness today? It might be with a family member you often overlook or a coworker with whom you have a subtle tension. Make a conscious choice to interact with them through the lens of justice. As you do, observe the effect on your inner state. Does choosing fairness, even in a small way, create a greater sense of coherence and liberty within your own mind? Freedom through self-control is built not in grand gestures, but in the quiet repetition of daily habits. Each small, conscious choice to pause before reacting or to reflect on your day acts like a single brick, steadily constructing the inner citadel of your autonomy. Over time, these practiced behaviors rewire your default responses, training the mind to turn first to reason rather than being swept away by the first wave of impulse. This is how character is forged, not in isolated moments of heroism, but through the cumulative power of routine. The Stoic teacher Epictetus emphasized that progress depends on this constant practice, noting that no great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig is. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer you that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen. Your freedom, like the ripening fruit, requires the patient daily cultivation of habit. Consider the simple ritual of a morning meditation. This is not about achieving a blank mind, but about consciously setting your intentions for the day ahead, reminding yourself of the dichotomy of control before the world's demands begin to pull at your attention. It is a daily rehearsal for the challenges to come, grounding you in your principles. Similarly, the evening review, where you reflect on your actions with a calm and honest eye, solidifies the day's lessons. It is in this quiet accounting that you see clearly where your self-control held strong and where it can be strengthened tomorrow. These are not tedious chores, they are the repetitive drills that build mental muscle memory. To start this process yourself, choose one micro-habit to introduce into your routine. It could be the practice of taking one deep breath before you open an email that you anticipate will be challenging, creating a tiny space between the stimulus and your reply. Or you might dedicate just 5 minutes at the end of your day to sit quietly and ask yourself where you exercised your freedom of choice most effectively. This small, consistent act of reflection reinforces the neural pathways of self-awareness and control. What is one small, manageable habit you can commit to starting today? It might be as simple as pausing for 3 seconds before answering a question in a meeting, or writing down one thing you are grateful for each evening. As you perform this single practice day after day, pay close attention to the subtle shift within you. How does this small, repeated act of discipline begin to change your sense of inner liberty over time? Anger feels powerful, but the Stoics saw it as a surrender of freedom, and they developed a clear path to reclaim it. they understood that this fiery emotion is not an uncontrollable force that happens to you, but a reaction you choose, however quickly that choice seems to be made. It arises from a specific formula, a judgment that you have been wronged and that an injustice demands an immediate, often destructive, response. By intercepting this process, you can transform the raw energy of anger into a force for constructive, virtuous action. Seneca dedicated an entire work to this subject, his powerful text on anger, where he examines this passion with remarkable clarity. He described anger as a brief madness, and he offered a practical first step to impose a delay between the provocation and your reaction. He advised that the greatest remedy for anger is to wait, to not allow it to manifest in the moment, but to let the initial intensity cool. This pause creates the essential space for your rational mind to re-engage. In that space, you can reassess the situation. Was this act truly intentional, or could it be a mistake, a misunderstanding, or simply a reflection of the other person's own challenges? This thoughtful inquiry is not about making excuses for others, but about preserving your own inner sovereignty and ensuring your response is measured and effective. Consider a modern scenario where a colleague publicly dismisses an idea you worked hard to develop. The initial, automatic impression is one of frustration and a surge of heat demanding a sharp, defensive retort. This is the moment of choice. Without a practiced pause, you might lash out, escalating the situation and affecting both the professional relationship and your own composed demeanor. Applying the Stoic method, you take that one deep breath, creating a deliberate gap. You use that gap to question the assumption fueling your reaction. Is your worth truly diminished by one person's opinion? Could they be under pressure themselves or simply lacking context? From this comma center, you can then channel the energy that frustration provided. Instead of a retaliatory comment, you might choose to later ask for a private conversation to understand their perspective, framing your own points with clarity and respect. Or you could direct that same passionate energy into refining your proposal, using the experience as fuel to make your work even more robust and undeniable. The initial impulse is not suppressed, it is transformed. Think back to a recent moment where you felt a flash of genuine frustration. It might have been in traffic, in a family discussion, or while reading the news. If you had imposed that brief Stoic pause, if you had questioned the judgment that you were being personally wronged, how might you have redirected that powerful energy? What constructive action could have emerged from that space of reclaimed freedom, turning a moment of tension into an opportunity for growth? For the Stoics, freedom was not a single virtue, but the harmonious exercise of all virtues together. You cannot truly have self-control without wisdom to guide it, courage to uphold it in difficulty, justice to direct it toward others, and temperance to ensure it is not overcome by desire. These are not separate tools in a box, but interwoven threads in a single, unbreakable cord of character. A weakness in one virtue inevitably creates a strain in all the others, compromising the entire structure of your inner liberty. The Roman thinker Cicero, reflecting on this Stoic unity, noted that the virtues are so completely joined and intertwined with one another that if one is lacking, the others cannot be present. A person cannot be truly wise if they are a coward, nor can they be just if they are intemperate and ruled by their appetites. This interconnectedness means that your pursuit of freedom is a complete project of personal development, where every virtue you strengthen reinforces your capacity for self-mastery as a whole. Consider a common modern challenge, the act of giving difficult but necessary feedback to someone you care about. Wisdom is required to discern what truly needs to be said and what is better left unspoken. Courage is essential to overcome the discomfort and fear of causing temporary unease. Justice demands that you speak honestly for the ultimate good of the other person and the relationship. And temperance is crucial to moderate your delivery, ensuring your words are measured and compassionate rather than harsh or excessive. If any one of these virtues is neglected, the entire action falters. Without courage, your wisdom remains silent and unexpressed. Without temperance, your just intent can manifest as an unhelpful outburst. It is only when all four work in concert that you can offer a critique that is both truthful and kind, an act that strengthens the connection and, most importantly, leaves your own integrity and inner peace completely intact. This is freedom in action, a choice made from a place of integrated character, not from a fractured or reactive impulse. Take a quiet moment to look at your own life. Which of these core virtues feels most natural to you, your strongest pillar? Is it the courage to face challenges, the temperance to manage your desires, the wisdom to see situations clearly, or the justice you extend to others? Now, which one feels like it could use more conscious cultivation? See this not as a flaw, but as an opportunity. How might strengthening that single, weaker virtue, perhaps by practicing small daily acts of courage or moments of deliberate temperance, begin to uplift and support all the others, creating a more resilient and unified sense of your own autonomy? Your journey through these Stoic practices reveals a single, unshakable truth: that freedom is an internal state built through daily self-mastery. We began by drawing the crucial line between what is within our power and what is not, the foundation of the dichotomy of control. We explored the transformative power of loving your fate with Amor Fati, and we equipped ourselves with practical tools, from the evening journal to the mindful pause before speaking. Each of these disciplines works to construct that inner citadel, a fortress of reason and virtue that stands regardless of the storms outside. True liberation is not found in changing the world, but in mastering your perceptions, your desires, and your actions within it. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius left us with a powerful image of this self-sufficient strength. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. The soul becomes invincible when it withdraws into its own self-sufficiency, refusing to acknowledge anything outside its own sphere as either good or bad. This is the ultimate expression of Stoic freedom, a soul so grounded in its own principles that it cannot be conquered by circumstance. Your path forward begins not with a grand overhaul, but with a single, conscious choice. Select just one practice from our exploration, perhaps the morning meditation on the day's challenges or the evening review of your actions. Commit to it for the next 7 days. Notice the subtle shifts in your awareness, the growing space between a trigger and your response, the quiet confidence that emerges when you stop fighting the currents you cannot change. We would love to hear about your journey in the comments below. Which principle resonated most deeply with you, and what was one small victory you experienced? By sharing our stories, we build a community dedicated to growth and resilience. If you found this guide valuable, subscribe for more content on applying ancient wisdom to modern life, and continue building your unshakable inner freedom, one disciplined choice at a time.